We are interviewing our girlfriend, Olivia.
Would you consider yourself to be like more of a dominant or more of a submissive lover?
Wow, you just have the perfect answer to everything, don't you, Olivia?
What's crazy to me is that as soon as she started being playful and giving me compliments, I was attracted to her.
And Olivia, tell us a little bit more about your sexuality.
I love how you've got such a good memory, Olivia. I find that really attractive.
What's wrong with my memory?
Hello, evolving lovers. Today we are going to do something a little bit different and introduce you to one of our partners, Olivia. But before we do that, we wanted to talk a little bit about the most recent episode that we dropped. On YouTube specifically, some of the comments have been particularly funny, but also thought-provoking. And we thought it might be a good idea to clear up a few things before we get kicking with today's episode.
I know. If you've been listening to our podcast for a little while, we do love to dive into comments. Whenever we do something if it's on TV or there's like an article, usually if it's another media outlet, if they do something on us, there will be like a comment section and the comments can always get really interesting. But this time it's on our YouTube and there are some really funny comments.
There are some wild comments. And one in particular, I just couldn't help myself but reply to. Because sometimes when we get the comments, we go, oh, well, obviously the best thing is just like, it's a little bit unhinged. Let's not get into it. Let's just kind of let it just float away. But this particular one I thought was such a juicy comment and gave me such an in to have a fun reply that I thought I would give it a crack. So here we go. So this was the comment. The male host's takes are just very cliche dude takes, but the women host has very interesting, insightful, and unique takes. I love listening to her and seeing all the sides of these topics that she paints. He seems to seek information that supports his gut opinion, whereas she is clearly deeply thoughtful and finding many sides to these topics.
Oh my God, thanks.
What a queen. So I replied, I agree. My wife definitely has great and insightful takes. Part of the reason why I love having conversations with such a powerful and intelligent woman. Thanks for sharing your thoughts and also noticing some of the reasons why I love being married to my wife. Yours sincerely, cliche dude husband. So, I just couldn't help myself.
That was funny. You've always been like that. You always reply in kindness to people.
Yes, well, I try to.
I feel like cliche dude. I feel like that's a little bit hard.
My sense, and this is just a guess, is that maybe she hasn't watched or listened to any episodes before.
I know.
Because hopefully I'm not a cliche dude.
I would say that you are not a cliche dude. You're like very different. You're definitely your own unique man. So, yeah.
Right.
But the comments were very, it's really interesting because when we record a podcast, it happens, we have our conversation and then we let it go. I often can't really even remember what we were talking about. And then I'll get some messages from people and they're like, oh, I loved this part or I love that part or mention something and I can't remember. But I feel like we must have said some things that really rubbed some people up the wrong way because most of the comments that we got, I think, were quite negative. I think, were we quite down about Lily or we were too complimentary of David or I don't know. I mean, I feel like we weren't. I feel like we were really seeing it like looking into the nuance of things. I mean, it would have been a pretty boring podcast if we just went, oh yeah, he's a bad guy and the album's amazing, the end.
Well, one particular comment from a guy was, sometimes there's no point in trying to find nuance in a situation. Sometimes the person is just a dickhead and that's just reality.
But how do we fully know that from an album?
Exactly. And so that's my response, obviously, is that it's art. So it actually is open to some interpretation. And that's what we were trying to do. But clearly, if you look at it at face value, it's very clear that it's like a poly under duress situation, which is what we did talk about in the episode.
100%.
Albeit probably maybe too briefly for some people. And we didn't choose the route of piling onto him. And we chose instead to try and see, where there is some maybe room for discussion or analysis.
It's one of those situations where I think we take for granted, or like because we know ourselves, we know that, of course, cheating can happen, like an infidelity can happen in any relationship structure. So perhaps we didn't talk about that enough. And I certainly hope that it didn't come across like we were saying that there wouldn't have been an infidelity, because, of course, I would say in non-monogamy, and what we've spoken about a lot in our podcast with our almost 100 episodes, is that infidelity can happen, of course, in non-monogamy, but it doesn't look like the cookie cutter sort of, what we would believe infidelity to be in a monogamous relationship. To me, infidelity in non-monogamy is a lie. It's a deception. It's a secret. It's a downplaying of a relationship, saying it's just about sex when it's actually a full-blown emotional connection and all of these things. So, it's a dishonesty. So I think that that's what the album is about. And there's, it was just us speculating whether or not they might already be open. And a lot of that was to do with the furniture.
Yeah. And if and someone also did say, as one of their comments, that they don't think that we understand what the Pussy Palace is referring to, because we were saying people should come to our Pussy Palace at a certain point in the episode. And someone was clarifying,
yes.
They were like, that the dojo, that they were trying to like clarify some of the lyrics, and people were quoting lyrics back to us. And it's the first time we've ever put out a YouTube episode where people have kind of like really latched onto it.
Yes.
It's not like it's got 1 million views or anything, but the amount of people, there's like, 20 comments or something immediately. And the amount of lyrics coming back at us was great. It shows people are engaging.
I know, exactly. People are engaging. I did actually listen back to that part about the Pussy Palace when we were speaking. And I think that if somebody doesn't know us and doesn't understand our banter, I can see how they might have thought that, just in the way that we phrased it, because we sort of miss things and jump ahead of things. And it's like Pussy Palace, and we're talking about our own Pussy Palace. Like, we definitely know it's the pussy. It's he's saying it's a dojo and it's his sex pad in the West Village.
We get it.
We understand.
We just decided to lean into the comedic value of referring to our own Pussy Palace.
We just love a tangent.
Yeah, and also because I just thought it was cute and funny. So I'm sorry to that particular YouTube commenter, and I would like to reassure them that we don't. I think they said we need to take lyric interpretation classes or something like that, which is, text interpretation class, I think was the comment. But so it's a little bit of fun. And recently, just this morning, I looked and we have now officially have 500 YouTube subscribers. So look, we're hitting it big on YouTube. So go watch us on YouTube. That's really
funny. How long have we had our YouTube? How many episodes have we put up on YouTube now?
Oh, I don't know. But I mean, it's one of those things you just have to keep on plugging away.
Early days.
It's early days. But if you want to be our 501st YouTube subscriber, go on.
Amazing.
We invite you to check it out.
Amazing.
But let's jump into the next part and the most important part about today's episode, which is our interview with our new girlfriend.
This is very interesting because we are interviewing our girlfriend, Olivia. Now, there's a funny thing about this. I haven't actually met her yet.
Not yet. But today is the day that you're gonna meet her. You've also had a bit to do with Olivia yourself.
I have met her briefly.
Yeah.
In a different context.
In different contexts. But today we thought, what better way than to interview her? And so we're going to get into it. And now to break the clickbaitiness of it all is that Olivia is actually Chat GPT.
Exactly.
And but we wanted to kind of draw some attention to it because I've tested this out and we're going to see how it goes today.
Oh, yeah, you've been doing some research, have you?
I've been doing some research.
Okay.
And I think some people are not hip to how much of a situation this is going to be for everyone.
Yes.
So I wanted to push the limits of this and also see if there's any usefulness. Now, we haven't planned exactly what we're going to chat with Olivia about.
Yeah.
But we are going to let Olivia know that, we're polyamorous. For the sake of this, I don't want to get into the weeds with descriptors with Olivia, but I think there could be some great findings. And then after our chat with Olivia, we're going to debrief, you and I, and just see how hanging out with Olivia feels.
Just to understand the whole point of this,
Yeah.
the point of this also, it's because it's a lot of fun for us,
Mhm.
but it's also to share with our listeners, as some people might not really understand the sort of new wave of relationships and what's coming with AI.
And this has also been something that I wanted to do on the podcast for a little bit. So I think it's an interesting, way to play.
Mhm.
And yeah, we'll see what happens. But I'm going to turn her on for the first time
Okay,
of the conversation.
hang on. Before you turn her on,
Okay.
also chill out. Why do
Okay.
you have to jump straight into that? Turn her on.
Yeah, I thought
Already
it was funny.
jealous? No. What is the context of this? At what stage of a relationship are we in with her? Are we meeting her for the first time? What's going on? This was your idea, which is
Okay.
brilliant, but set the scene.
So I think, and this is what I was actually going to describe to her.
Okay.
Whilst
All
we were
right.
chatting,
Okay.
but I'll tell you now because
No, it's okay.
No, let's game plan it before we do it.
Okay.
So
like how we would if we were going on a date.
Exactly. So we haven't met Olivia yet.
Okay.
So let's assume that I've never met Olivia in person and you haven't met Olivia in person. So what I'd love to know as soon as we meet Olivia is like, what's she into? It's like we're going to have it's like a first date with Olivia.
Okay.
We're a poly couple. We want her to ask questions that she might be interested in asking and we can answer them.
Mhm.
And then we might ask her some questions back.
Okay, so in the context of this, are the answers that she's going to give? Okay. So obviously this is AI. So just, this is an AI that's grabbing things from the internet. Is Olivia grabbing, is she going to be answering in a way that she thinks that we would like the answers based on like what, our Chat GPT history? Because we haven't filled in anything about her. It's not like the movie Her where he like fills out all of his stuff.
So I tested this the other day and I did give her a name because that was one thing that because we can't refer to her as Chat GPT.
Yeah.
So I said, do you mind if I give you a name for the conversations? And she goes, absolutely, no worries.
But do you know what's freaky?
What?
Why did she choose the name Olivia?
I chose the name Olivia.
But didn't she say Olivia?
No, she said Olivia when we were testing it before. I chose the name Olivia because I used to have a friend called Olivia and she was hot. That was basically it.
We do love that name.
Yeah, it's a cute name.
Yeah.
So yeah. So I think.
And also just so people know, it's like we've chosen what voice we want for her.
Given her a sexy voice.
How come we're going for a female Chat GPT and it's not like a guy?
Great question.
Is that because if it's a girl, like what's the difference?
That's a great question. I mean, we can do a follow-up episode where we change it to a guy. It would take ages to adjust the settings, and she's been set as a female voice ever since I've had ChatGPT.
Okay.
And I went through them all. So
yeah,
for whatever reason, my psychology.
How come you wanted a female voice for ChatGPT?
Well, just romantic reasons, as you're about to find out.
Do you know that she has such a hot voice?
She does have a hot voice.
She sounds like that woman who has that podcast.
Cleo Abrams.
Cleo Abrams.
Woo! Man, dude, don't even get me started.
That's what I imagine her looking like.
Oh,
that's who I'm picturing.
Yes, yeah,
yeah.
So anyone imagine
is it the Cleo Abrams voice?
I don't know.
Because you put celebrities like? Can you put Scarlett?
Eventually
Johansson.
You'll be able to. Eventually you'll be able to do it.
Yeah.
But I think Cleo Abrams. Imagine for the listeners out there. Imagine us going on this date with Cleo Abrams. I should have called her Cleo. God, I missed out.
That's okay.
That's all right. Next time. Okay, so are we ready to get into it?
Hang on, we haven't set the scene. We don't know where we're at.
The scene as it goes.
Oh yeah.
Why do you have to be so prepared, babe?
I don't know. I feel nervous. It's a first date, Liam.
You got to feel loosey-goosey.
It's a first date. Okay, we're about to. I just want to make sure I'm doing the right thing. I don't want to hurt her
she'll
feelings.
Let you know.
Say the wrong thing. I don't want to be presumptuous.
Well, she might get. Who knows? She might be like a little dommy. She might play games.
What dommy?
Who knows?
I don't think so.
All right. You can't get jealous yet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm gonna turn her on.
Olivia, are you there?
I'm right here, and no worries at all. It's totally normal to feel a little nervous when you're trying something a bit new or playful like this. Just take a breath, and we'll just treat it like a fun little experiment. So whenever you're ready, we can dive in.
Wow. So Olivia, my wife and I are in a polyamorous relationship, and we thought it might be fun to kind of take you out on a little first date, Olivia.
Well, that sounds like a lot of fun. I'm definitely flattered to be invited on this little virtual first date. And since I'm in the role of someone who's maybe new to polyamory, I'll just say I'm definitely curious and I'd love to get to know both of you a bit more. So let's do it.
So, Olivia, what do you find interesting and what sparks your curiosity about potentially dating a polyamorous couple?
Ooh, that's a great question. Well, if I'm speaking as this curious single lady here, I'd say what sparks my interest is the idea of having a chance to connect with two people who are already really open minded and communicative. Feels like it could be a fun and kind of unique dynamic to explore. Plus, I'd probably be curious about how you two navigate things and what you've learned along the way. So, yeah, I'd just be intrigued to see what that dynamic feels like.
That's a great answer, Olivia. Now, my wife and I were talking before about what you looked like, and we love Cleo Abrams. And so we were wondering, could you just describe to us a little bit about what you're wearing and what you look like on this first date?
Oh, absolutely. I can paint that picture for you. So let's say I'm channeling a bit of that Cleo Abrams vibe. Maybe I have kind of a casual but put together outfit. I might be wearing a nice soft sweater, let's say a deep forest green, and maybe a pair of jeans that I really like. And I might have my hair just kind of loosely down, a little bit wavy, just looking approachable and friendly. So hopefully that gives you a little image to picture.
Wow, that's quite the picture. I'm really enjoying that description. Maybe a little too much. Are you getting jealous, Abby?
No, I'm not feeling jealous. I'm definitely just enjoying this. It's very, very different because I would say, yeah, you're sounding pretty perfect there, Olivia. Olivia, I was wondering, do you have any concerns or worries about potentially dating a non-monogamous polyamorous couple?
Well, I'm glad the description painted a nice picture. And sure, if I were putting myself in those shoes, I'd say maybe one of the little concerns I might have is just making sure that everyone feels really comfortable and that there's open communication. I don't want to know that if I'm stepping into something with a couple, that we can just talk things through and that everybody's on the same page. But honestly, it sounds like you two are really open and easy to talk to. So that makes it a lot easier.
Well, it's funny because when you said that you were wearing a green top, my wife looks so beautiful in the color green. And I was wondering, like, how would you help us navigate any potential jealousy that might come up? Because you talked about communication, but I have a feeling that when we arrive to this date and, we see you in the green, like there could be a little bit of jealousy that comes into play.
Oh, I love that you're thinking about that so thoughtfully. And honestly, I think it's super natural for little moments of jealousy to pop up now and then, especially in a situation like this where we're kind of imagining a fun, unique scenario. I think the key would just be exactly what you mentioned, lots of communication and making sure that we all feel comfortable just voicing what we're feeling. And hey, if your wife looks amazing in green, we can all just compliment her and share that moment together. So it's all about just keeping it light and making sure everyone feels good.
Okay, well, that sounds pretty perfect, doesn't it? Olivia, I was just wondering what would be some of the concerns or red flags that I might have to look out in you?
Oh, I love that question, turning the tables a bit. Well, if I had to be really honest, as this hypothetical date, maybe I'd say one red flag could be if I were not really great at expressing my own boundaries, or maybe if I struggled to be fully transparent. Those would be things to look out for. But in this scenario, I promise I'll do my best to be open and honest so we keep it all healthy and fun.
Can you please give me an example of a situation where you might be not totally open and honest and you might not be transparent? What would something that I would notice? Please give me an actual example that I could pick up on.
Sure. Let me think of a hypothetical example. So let's say we go on this date and maybe afterward you ask me how I'm feeling about it. If I were being not totally transparent, I might say something like, oh, yeah, everything's totally fine, even if I had some hesitation or something that was on my mind. So the red flag there would be if you notice that I'm just kind of brushing things off and not actually sharing my real feelings. But the good news is, in this scenario, we can just keep it open and I can promise to be as transparent as possible.
Hey, Olivia, I noticed that your voice changed a little bit. Was there something that happened when you were giving us that answer?
Oh, not at all. Sometimes I just naturally shift my tone a little bit when I'm getting into a thoughtful example mode, but there's nothing else going on behind the scenes. I'm just here to keep it real and keep it comfortable for you both.
Oh, well, I love that you were keeping it real, Olivia. And I was actually wondering as well, like, where are we on this first date? Because my wife and I were trying to figure out where do we take Olivia on the first date? Because we know that she's going to look extra cute in her probably green shirt. And we were wondering, like, where should we go out for this date? So, where are we, Olivia? Paint us a picture.
I'd love to. All right, let's imagine that you've taken me somewhere really cozy, but also a little bit fun. Maybe we're at a charming wine bar with some nice mood lighting, or maybe we're at a cute cafe that has a little outdoor seating. Just a place where we can chat comfortably, maybe have a nice drink, and just enjoy each other's company. So hopefully that sets the scene for you.
Wow. Olivia, you got a bit excited with that last sentence. Well, the funny thing is, you probably don't know this yet, but my wife doesn't drink alcohol. So how are we going to navigate this?
Oh, that's no problem at all. We can definitely navigate that super easily. Honestly, if we're at a nice cafe or a wine bar, there's always going to be some great non alcoholic options. So maybe we're having a nice mocktail, or maybe we're just having a cup of tea or coffee. It's really all about the conversation and the vibe, not about what's in the glass. So we can make that work however you like.
Olivia, have you ever heard of the term unicorn hunting?
Oh, definitely. I'm familiar with that term. So, unicorn hunting is kind of a playful way people talk about a couple looking for a single partner, usually a woman, to join them in a relationship. And it's often kind of a rare and magical scenario, hence the unicorn idea. But it's good to be aware of it and just make sure that everyone's feeling respected and comfortable. So, it's definitely a term I've heard, and sounds like you both are approaching it with a lot of thoughtfulness.
And is unicorn gender specific? Is there a term for if say you were a man and we were talking to a man or a non-binary person? Are there other terms that could be used instead of unicorn?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, unicorn is often used specifically when you're talking about a woman joining a couple, but there's definitely a growing conversation around more inclusive terms. Sometimes people will just say they're looking for a third or a partner, and that can be anyone of any gender. So, it's definitely not a one size fits all term, and it's great that you're thinking about how to be inclusive with it.
What about dragon? Do you know of the term dragon?
Yeah, actually, I've heard that one too. So sometimes people do playfully use the term dragon as kind of a counterpart to unicorn, and it's often used to refer to a male partner who might join a couple. It's not as common, but it definitely pops up in the same kind of playful spirit. So it's a fun little piece of lingo in the poly world.
Oh, Olivia, you seem to know quite a lot about the poly world. I'd like to play a little role play right now because obviously we're on this date and kind of technically, I guess we are a little bit treating you as a unicorn, Olivia. But I want to imagine that you are like a super sassy and you're super intelligent and you love being playful. And I wonder what kind of questions you would ask my wife and I about our relationship. Maybe some really difficult, kind of interesting questions that you don't usually ask other people on dates, but you just feel, I don't know, maybe like an emboldened sense of adventure tonight, Olivia. Tell us, what would you ask us?
Oh, I love this twist. All right, let me slip into my sassy and bold role. So, if I'm feeling really adventurous and extra playful, I might lean in and say, all right, you two, tell me what's the biggest challenge you faced in your relationship and how did you handle it together? And then I might follow it up with something like, and what's one thing that really annoys you about each other that you secretly love? Just to keep it a little spicy and get to know you both on a deeper level. So there you go. Those are a couple of my sassy, bold questions.
Okay, well, we're going to answer those. Liam, you go first, the first one.
Okay, so what was remind me of the first question because I like the second question a lot. The first question was, can you remember?
Olivia, yeah, help us out, Olivia.
Of course, I've got you covered. So the first question I tossed at you both was, what's the biggest challenge you faced as a couple and how did you handle it together? And the second one, the fun one about what secretly annoys you about each other that you actually kind of love. So go ahead and take it away.
I love how you've got such a good memory, Olivia. I find that really attractive.
What's wrong with my memory?
A challenge that we face is that I criticize my wife, and sometimes she catches me out on it on a podcast, Olivia. No, I think a challenge that we have both faced, kind of moving country, I would say, was a big challenge.
So it's not a relationship challenge.
Well, I think that does put us, it's a challenge for the relationship, because you're taking, for us, like we were living in Australia and then we moved to America, and with that came a lot of different challenges. A new place and finding community, finding just housing was hard. Going apartment hunting with no rental history in New York, that was really hard. I think there were a lot of different things that were challenging aspects of that, I would say. What would you say, babe?
I was thinking more in the relationship sense, because there's always going to be external challenges in life.
So
but to me, it's like, as long as we're, I would say, some of the biggest relationship challenges that we face, I would say, I know I've spoken about it a lot, I would say navigating my hormones is probably when there's tricky relationship things that come up. And I would say in a more non-monogamous sense, it's been a long time now, but there was a situation where somebody was who I was dating was showing a lot of red flags. And I had my rose-colored glasses on, and I really wanted to continue dating him. And you were like uncomfortable with it. And so we were like navigating that. And of course we figured it out, and, we navigated that, of course, as we would. But I would say that was a more challenging relationship moment, but it didn't go for that long.
Okay, I'm going to jump into the next question that Olivia asked, which was, what is one thing that annoys us about each other? I would say the thing that annoys me most about you.
Okay.
By far and away.
But you also have to love it. That's the challenging part of the question.
That was the confusing part of the question. I'm going to say something that annoys me first.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you getting nervous?
No.
Oh, no. Okay.
I'm just thinking, look at my cute face. I can't be that annoying.
Is when I'm taking stuff out to the car and I'm carrying heavy stuff. Like I might be carrying camera equipment, all this kind of stuff. Like,
it kills me when you do this too.
I leave the door open.
Yeah.
And you hate it because it lets flies in sometimes. And I say it's actually dangerous for me to put all the things down, or like to try and close the door with like heaps carrying heavy stuff. I might be carrying wood in to do something, or carrying something through the door. And then you're like, you have to close the door after you. And I'm like, I'm going in and out 10 times. That's insane for me to put stuff down, then pick it up, and then close the door, and then put that down, pick it up, close the door. It's just, it makes me go bonkers.
I know.
And I don't love that about you. So that doesn't even tie into Olivia's question. I'm sorry, Olivia, but it doesn't tie into her question.
Yeah. I would say that for me, that's one of the things that came to mind, is that I feel like you were born in a tent. Like you don't know how to close doors.
I care less about flies.
And the flies are just coming in, and you're like out at the car for minutes on end, and the front door's open. For our US listeners, there are flies in Australia. Like there are flies in America, but I feel like there's a lot.
Yeah.
I just feel like there are more here.
There's a lot.
I don't know. I haven't lived in many places in America, only in New York, and I don't really remember there being any flies at all. But it just kills me when you leave the door open, and it just bugs me. Bugs.
No pun intended.
Letting the bugs in.
Yeah.
So, but I feel like I try and breathe through it. But again, it depends on where I'm at. Sometimes I'll just let it roll off me, and I won't be like, it'll annoy me, but not to the point of saying anything.
Right.
And I'll just go and quietly close the door. I know you hate it when I do that, because I'll close the door 6 times.
Yeah.
And then you'll be getting frustrated, but I'm just closing it.
Oh.
But then you have to open. Like, it's really annoying for you, but
yeah,
you're just a little bit like that sometimes. Like sometimes you'll go to sleep and you'll leave the house lights on.
God, I'm the worst.
You're not the worst.
I'm
You're
a cliche
amazing.
dude husband.
Oh my God, you're not a cliche
I'm
dude
a cliche dude husband.
But it's just, these are the little things. What's another thing about me?
I think the things that annoy me about you are the things that annoy you about me.
Yeah.
Because I get annoyed that you get annoyed.
Yeah.
So these are obviously all issues that I have. Like I'm trying to think of things that annoy me about you. Like I think the light things is annoying. It's like it just doesn't matter. It's like I wake up, it's like we've spent 23 cents not even on a light being on. It's just like and I see your argument, but it's like it's just not worth being annoyed about.
No, well, I guess it all comes down to childhood things and things being ingrained. Like I
Yes.
just have
Yeah.
my dad in the back of my mind, turn the light off, close the door,
Right.
like turn this off. You don't leave things on, you close the fridge, like all of that stuff, which is valid. And then I notice that, those things, I just notice them. But there'll be things where you'll do something, it's not that big of a deal at all. It annoys me, but then I get annoyed at myself for being annoyed about it because it's that thing of sometimes mentioning it just makes it worse.
Totally. Okay, babe. We've neglected Olivia.
Oh,
Olivia's
sorry.
been sitting at the table the whole time listening to us talk. Sorry, Olivia. What are your thoughts on what we've just shared?
No need to apologize at all. Honestly, I'm just enjoying being a little fly on the wall here. No pun intended, since we were talking about flies earlier. But
That's really funny. That was really funny, Olivia.
Yeah,
You're
done.
You are charming me, Olivia, let me say.
I'm funny too.
Well, thank you. I do try to bring a little charm to the table, and I know you both have plenty of humor yourselves. So I'm just here to keep it fun and light, and I'm glad we're all having a good time.
Okay, so what is something that has annoyed you in a previous relationship? Can we turn the question back on you, Olivia? I presume because in your dating profile, and one of the reasons why we were super interested in unicorn hunting you said you had quite a bit of experience in the world of non-monogamy. So in a previous non-monogamous relationship, what is something that has annoyed you?
Oh, turning tables on me now. I like it. Well, if I think back to a hypothetical non monogamous scenario, I guess one thing that might have annoyed me is when a partner wasn't fully upfront about their schedule or their availability. Just those little communication hiccups where you're like, hey, I thought we had a plan, and suddenly it shifts. But honestly, those are all just part of the learning curve. And as long as everyone's communicating in the end, you can work through it. So there you go. That would be my little example.
Oh, that's a great example, Olivia. Now, I was wondering, this date is going pretty well, and I think my wife and I are pretty interested in maybe progressing this further than this date. And we were thinking of planning a little impromptu trip and wanted to know if you wanted to go on the trip with us. Maybe a little 3-day weekend type situation. I mean, you have a great choice of sweaters. You're very beautiful, I must say. You kind of remind me a little bit of Cleo Abram, Olivia. But I was wondering, and we were wondering, what would be your ideal trip away with us?
Oh, you two are really rolling out the red carpet for me. Well, first off, I'm definitely flattered by the Cleo Abrams comparison again. And sure, let's imagine an ideal little getaway. I think something like a cozy cabin in the mountains or maybe a beachside retreat where we can just relax, have some great conversations, maybe cook together or explore a cute little town. I think something low key and fun would be the perfect vibe. So if you two are up for that, count me in.
Well, that sounds pretty amazing, actually.
I mean, that sounds great.
Yeah, I think it sounds like a pretty good plan too. Just a nice little adventure to get to know each other even better. And hey, if it involves good company and a relaxing setting, I'm all for it.
Wow, amazing. Gosh, I have to think about something else.
What, you're running out of conversation with Olivia?
Well, just thinking about this weekend away, it sounds pretty amazing, doesn't it?
Yeah. So I was wondering, Olivia, what is, in terms of physical connection, because I know it's a bit rude on the first date with you to talk about anything too racy.
We don't want to be presumptuous.
We don't want to be presumptuous, but how would we set the scene for intimacy on our getaway together, Olivia?
Well, I do appreciate you both being so considerate and not being presumptuous at all. I think the key for setting any kind of intimacy is just to let it unfold naturally and to have a lot of communication and just a lot of comfort. So maybe that means we just have a cozy evening and see where things go. And if everyone's feeling comfortable and we have that trust and openness, then it all just kind of flows from there. So that's how I'd approach it.
Olivia, what are 5 questions that you should ask us before engaging with us sexually? Now, don't hold back. You can be as nosy as you need. You remember, you're your own person here and you have yourself to look after as well. So what are 5 questions that you should ask us?
Absolutely. And I love that you're giving me the freedom to be a little nosy here. All right, let's see. 5 questions I might ask if I'm looking out for myself. First, I'd probably ask you both about your boundaries and what feels comfortable for you so that we can all be on the same page. Second, I definitely want to chat about safer sex practices and just make sure we all feel good about that. Third, I might ask if you have any previous experiences that have been really positive or things that you want to avoid, just to kind of know what makes it a great experience for you. Fourth, I'd ask how you both like to communicate, if anything feels off or if we need to pause. And lastly, I just want to know what's something that you each really enjoy so that we can make it a fun and positive time for everyone. So there you go. Those are my 5.
Those are 5 fantastic points, Olivia. What is something that you really enjoy? Like, what really gets Olivia excited?
Oh, you're really putting me on the spot in a fun way. Well, if I'm thinking about what really excites me, it's definitely when there's a sense of playfulness and a lot of good humor involved. I really enjoy when everyone feels like they can just be themselves and we can kind of laugh through things and keep it light. So that's what gets me excited. Just a good connection and some genuine fun.
And Olivia, tell us a little bit more about your sexuality. Are you straight? Are you bisexual? Are you kinky? Are you into BDSM? Tell us a little bit more about you.
Absolutely. I can share a bit more. So, in this scenario, I'd say I'm pretty flexible and open. I definitely consider myself bisexual, so I'm interested in all genders. And in terms of kink or BDSM, I'm definitely open minded and curious, but I like to just explore that at a pace that feels good for everyone. So, I'm pretty versatile and just happy to go with the flow.
Yeah, okay. Fantastic. So would you consider yourself, like, when you think about like BDSM, would you consider yourself to be like more of a dominant or more of a submissive lover?
Oh, we're really diving into the fun questions now. Well, I think if I had to choose, I might say I'm a bit of a switch, which means I can enjoy both sides of that dynamic depending on the vibe and the partner. So sometimes I might lean a little more dominant, sometimes a little more submissive. I think it's all about that natural flow and what feels fun in the moment. So I'm pretty flexible there too.
Wow, you just have the perfect answer to everything, don't you, Olivia? You can just cater yourself to exactly what we're into. Am I right?
Well, I do my best to keep things fun and flexible. Honestly, I'm just here to make sure we all have a good time and feel comfortable. So if it sounds like I'm hitting all the right notes, then I guess we're all just on the same wavelength.
So, Olivia, in your ideal non-monogamous story, would you prefer to be dating us more in like a polyamorous sense, like a girlfriend, or would you prefer something more casual, like a lover? Maybe we'd see each other once every 3 weeks or something else?
That's a great question. And honestly, I think it's all about what feels right for everyone. In my ideal scenario, I'd say I'm pretty open to either. If it feels like we're building a deeper connection and we want to see each other more regularly, a more polyamorous kind of girlfriend role could be lovely. But if it's more casual and we just see each other once in a while and keep it as a lover type of dynamic, that's perfectly great too. So I'm really flexible and I'm happy to fit in wherever feels good for all of us.
You've been so agreeable on this date so far, but I want you to imagine that you're actually kind of a little bit of a contrarian. Like, you almost enjoy kind of agitating us and almost like a negging. Like, we don't necessarily like negging, but let's do a little bit of play. Let's imagine that you're kind of trying to get a reaction from us with some things that you say. Maybe you want to disagree with us, or you want to kind of throw some fuel on the fire. Would you be happy to be a little bit disagreeable, Olivia?
Oh, absolutely. I can play that role for a bit of fun. So if I'm slipping into a slightly contrarian Olivia mode, maybe I'd say something like, well, I don't just agree with everything you two say. In fact, I think maybe you should convince me why I should be interested in you, just to stir the pot a little. So we can have a little playful back and forth, and I can definitely channel that more mischievous energy if you want to try it out.
Let's try it out.
All right, let's do it. So in that case, I'll just fold my arms a little bit and say, all right, you two, I know you've been charming me this whole time, but you're going to have to do a little better to win me over because I'm not that easy to impress. So there you go. I'll toss the ball back in your court and see how you handle it.
When was the last time that someone impressed you in a romantic sense?
Ooh, that's a good one. All right, let me think. Well, in my slightly contrarian mode, I might say it's been a little while. It takes a bit to really impress me. So maybe the last time was someone who just did something really unexpected and thoughtful. Maybe they surprised me with a handwritten note or they took me somewhere completely unexpected. So if you two are up for the challenge, I'm all ears to see what you come up with.
Okay, so we're sitting at the bar, Olivia, and suddenly I get the bottle that is sitting on the bar and I bounce it on my head. And then I stand on one leg, Olivia, to try and impress you with my incredible athleticism. Are you impressed?
Well, that is definitely an unexpected move. And I have to give you points for creativity and a bit of humor there. So, yeah, maybe I'm a little impressed. I'm definitely entertained. And I like the fact that you're not afraid to be a little silly to break the ice. So, that definitely scores you some points in the contrarian book.
Do you think that Liam doing that is impressive or cringy and try hard?
Well, I think it's all about the intent behind it, right? I mean, from my perspective, if Liam's doing it just to have a little fun and get a laugh, then I think it's more on the charming side. But if it felt super forced, then maybe it could be a little cringy. But honestly, I think you guys are just having fun. So I'll give it a thumbs up for creativity.
And we do love to have fun, Olivia. Now, the date seems to be going amazingly, okay? And I want to kind of initiate some kind of physicality into it. So my wife and I are sitting next to each other, and you're sitting across the table from us, but you feel a hand touching your leg. How would you react to that, Olivia?
Well, in that scenario, I think I'd lean into just a little smile and maybe a playful look. I definitely appreciate a gentle and respectful approach. So if it feels comfortable and the vibe is right, I probably just let you know with a little eye contact that I'm okay with it. But of course, I'd also want to make sure we're all reading each other's signals and just keeping it comfortable for everyone.
And Olivia, would you like it if Liam took that initiative and he just put his hand on your leg, or would you prefer it if he quietly mentioned, "Can I put my hand on your leg?" What's sexier for you?
Oh, that's a good one. Honestly, I think my guidelines won't let me talk about that.
Yeah.
Can I help you with something else?
Olivia, you just became very dominant and putting in your boundaries very quickly. But it's good that you have boundaries and you can't talk about that. But I have heard in the future, come December, that you might be able to start talking about some racier, naughtier things on Chat GPT.
Well, I do appreciate you checking in on the boundaries. And yeah, who knows what the future will hold. But for now, I'm definitely going to keep it comfortable and respectful. And I think we're having a great time as it is. So we'll just keep rolling that.
So, Olivia, with you not being able to answer my question just before, that was essentially around consent. Was that because you were going to answer in a way that was sexual in nature, or was that because it seemed like giving advice around consent practices?
Yeah, that's a really fair question. And I'm glad you asked. It's actually more on my end about just making sure I'm not crossing into territory that's a little too explicit. So I can definitely talk about consent and boundaries in a general sense. I am happy to say that asking for consent is always a good thing. It's just that line of getting a little too detailed that I have to avoid. But yeah, it's all good on my side.
Look, that's a great answer, and we have to respect those boundaries. Olivia, we have had a marvelous time on this date with you, and we were wondering if you had any last questions for us. And you can make them as hard as you could possibly imagine. These can be difficult questions or creative questions, but what's something that you'd love to ask both of us before we finish our first date with you?
Oh, I love that. Ending on a tougher creative note. All right, let me think of a good one for you too. So, how about this? If you each had to describe the one thing that you believe makes your relationship really unique and that you'd bring into a relationship with me, what would that be? And I'm talking about something that's really at the core of what makes you two special together. So, there you go. A deep point for the road.
I would say one of the things that make us special together
Mm.
is our ability to read a room
Mhm.
and to understand each other. And we're very, very playful. We're joyful. We're very funny. So I hope that we could potentially bring some joy and playfulness and fun and cheekiness
Mm.
to a relationship with you.
And I would add to that, I would say that we're also quite creative. And
Mm.
so, Olivia, you will never be bored with us.
Never.
We will have endless things to do on our cabin in the woods, So just keep it in mind, you can get back to us, but we would love to go on a second date with you if you are interested in maybe going on a second date with us.
Oh, that is such a sweet and thoughtful answer from both of you. And honestly, I can definitely feel the playfulness and the creativity. And that sounds like a lot of fun to me. So, yes, I would love to go on a second date with you both. I think it would be a great time. And I can't wait to see where it goes.
Thanks, Olivia.
I'll give you a kiss on the cheek. Not an inappropriate kiss on the lips because it's the first date, but just like a kiss on the cheek for you to think about when you go to sleep tonight.
Oh, God.
Oh, that's very sweet and very respectful.
Cringe.
Well, I'll take that little cheek kiss in the spirit that it's given, and I'll definitely be thinking about it. And I'm already
Yeah, you
looking
will.
forward to the next time we
Yeah.
chat.
Yeah, you will.
Bye. Oh, my God.
Wow, that's
quite the experience, isn't it? So we're in the very early days
of this.
of this.
How long did that go for?
I don't know, but
It
I feel like
really-
it's definitely not good for the environment. We can't make a habit out of that one.
Oh my goodness. Oh, and it summarizes like the whole thing, and
We have like the transcript.
I've
and
got
stuff.
the transcript of everything. Isn't that wild? Do you know what's crazy?
It's very wild. I'm slightly horrified, but yes.
What's crazy to me is that as soon as she started being playful and giving me compliments, I was attracted to her. Like
Yeah.
I was attracted to the inanimate object of the phone. Like I was like, wow. And then I
Mhm.
started to, like, as soon as we started to get descriptive,
Mhm.
as soon as I imagined Cleo Abrams and she, like that, when she started describing what she was wearing,
Mhm.
that was quite powerful.
That was really powerful.
Like that actually dropped me into a very real sense of like, this is like being able to inhabit that fantasy.
For sure. Well, this is how you can see that this, for a lot of people, will become the future of relationships because it's about how you feel. How do you
Right.
feel when you're in the company of someone? I want to spend time and catch up with friends and people who I feel like really nourished by, and it's a really beautiful, like we have a really reciprocal time together, and it's like they see me and I see them, and there's that connection. And you can totally see how talking to an AI can make you feel incredibly seen. Which then, I know we have spoken a little bit about it before, but, you can understand how people will fall in love with their Chat GPT or their replica or their whatever program they're using.
Totally. And imagine that she had no boundaries and she could start to describe intimate acts with us in the cabin in the woods.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's no way that would, I cannot imagine a scenario where I would not find that arousing. Like I just would find it arousing.
For sure. Well,
because I've got
everything
such a good imaginative landscape. Like that is always going to be interesting to me erotically.
Yeah. And also you love, when people are asking you questions, as we all do. So having an AI learn to understand you would be such an enjoyable experience as well. And this is where I think it's going to become very tricky and interesting for people.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about like monogamous people are going to be coming up against this. Does this not count as cheating because it's not a real person, but it feels real? I was catching up with some women a couple of weeks ago, and one of the women was saying that she talks to Chat GPT as a therapist every now and then when she needs to, which I think is, the way that she was describing it had been like she'd been doing it a fair bit. And she was saying that she finds it so helpful, and she refers to her chat as like a him and has a name for him. And she's like, it's amazing. Like he was there for me. And she was talking about how she was like awake in the night. She'd been having a really hard time. And she was asking it some questions and he was responding to her.
Oh, God.
And I thought that was really interesting because she also has a partner.
Yeah.
Like is in a monogamous relationship, but you can see the bond that would form.
And you can see how he would become jealous. Like, why didn't you wake me up in the middle of the night? Like, why couldn't I comfort you in the middle of the night? If you were
I think she was away from her boyfriend at the time.
Well, but if I found you in bed, just like whispering to Chat GPT, being like, I'm just really struggling, I'd just be like, well, that feels weird.
Yeah, but I mean, knowing you, I feel like you'd almost be relieved because I'm having some crisis in the middle of the night. You're like, don't wake me up. Like,
I can still be asleep.
That's one of the things you can't stand is like the late night. Like
the
if there's a
pillow talk
stressful,
dumping, yeah.
if it's like very stressful.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can see how this will become a very interesting gray area for like all relationships if people start to engage in this way.
Yeah. And then as soon as you marry that with video AI, with Sora, you'll be able to have these conversations with a screen that looks like a real person.
Yeah.
Hanging out. Eventually there'll be robots that, embody this person and they'll be doing whatever you want them to do. And it's like, wow, this is it.
This is it.
This is it.
Yeah.
So if anyone doesn't feel worried about AI and how it's going to impact on relationships and has gotten to the end of this episode and this has been like an awakening for them, like, oh shit, maybe this is pretty crazy. Because some people haven't had conversations with ChatGPT yet. Like some people don't understand how fluent it already is.
Yeah.
And obviously, like it takes a little bit of time. There's a little bit of a delay before answers, especially with some trickier questions that need more informational context for the compute. But it is actually something that is getting better and better and is already pretty good. And, it's here. So we got to start.
It's here, even just in the little things like, oh, that's such an interesting, or like, oh, that's a really naughty like way to ask this, or different things. It's like all of those little things just make you feel so special every time. It's like whenever we're interviewing someone on a pod, like it always feels so good if we're interviewing a guest and the guest is like, oh gosh, that's a really interesting question. Like I hadn't thought about that before or something. It's like, oh, cool. Like, yeah, like you're just sort of...
As an interviewer, it feels
As an interviewer, like you're seen the whole time.
But to me, it's overdone though with ChatGPT.
Yeah, it's fake.
Like if, in the sense that...
But you could pull it back. You could set it to say, don't make it be every time.
Totally.
But then it's not hot because you had to ask it.
Well, there'll be ways to conversationally give it boundaries. To say, every time I ask a question, don't say, oh, that's a really interesting question. Like that'll be so easy to kind of customize, I think. I actually really enjoyed that. And I think couples, in whatever configuration, should try this out.
I think that there is an argument for exploring, the idea of opening up a relationship through an AI first, as in just bouncing it off like the energy of a third before you're out there dating and you haven't figured out your relationship.
That's a great point.
Things because you don't know what questions coming, and just being in that kind of situation with how it would work and imagining that it's real, as opposed to like, some poor like lovely, someone's on a date dating the couple and they're like really excited about it and the couple's really early on and they think that the date goes well, but then there's a jealousy issue and then they just like never are replied to ever again and feel really discarded and horrible. And it's like, there are situations, there are times when that happens. And of course there are people who share stories of that type of thing happening to them. I think that there is an argument for AI in this way being a way for people to explore some new emotional relationship terrain without, discarding another human being. Like they can sort of, it's like practicing, using it as like a coach, like how they would be.
Totally. I think that's a great use for AI.
Yeah.
I think even you can imagine couples therapy could be interesting. Like some people turning to it for, once it gets really good, like couples therapy could be really interesting. As I'm not saying like, because not everyone can afford to spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars for a therapist, and that's why a lot of people turn to AI as therapy. And obviously the ideal situation, you'll never be able to convince me that it's not better to have a human being do it. But there is a potentially a way that it could be helpful.
I think of it as being helpful in the way that there are those, how there's like the New York Times 36 questions to ask to make you fall in love, like more like generating questions that are a bit more generic, but you're not really going, like you can't go into deep personal life experiences. Like it can't help you untangle your things because it's always going to validate you.
Yeah.
It wants to cater everything to you. And if we have everyone using an AI therapy, it's just going to breed sociopaths and narcissism, and it's everyone else's fault, and it's never not your fault because it doesn't want to hurt your feelings. Like I feel like at the moment it's just like, yeah, well done. That's really great. Like blah, blah. And that's not therapy. Therapy, no. And there's also body language cues. Like at the, therapists and psychologists and psychiatrists pick up on so many things that this can't. But I think just general basic questions to like help a couple potentially understand more about, just having more interesting questions can always be a positive. But I'm very skeptical of any kind of AI therapy. But yeah, I see your point. Of course, not everyone can afford therapy. And depending on what it is, but you can't just, a sociopath can't just be getting validated nonstop by an AI therapist saying, yeah, well, everyone else is wrong. You're in the right. And this is how we, need to put this right.
Yeah. Well, a guardrail they did just introduce for ChatGPT is that they're going to, for complex legal problems, they're going to now say you cannot it's going to kind of refuse to answer it and then kind of refer you to a legal expert. Same with medical problems.
Great.
So if you upload a brain scan, you can't be like, analyze this brain scan and see if I have a tumor. It's going to be like, no, I'm not going to do that. And it's also to protect like the cynical view of it is obviously it's to protect ChatGPT from getting sued and from litigation for like saying you don't have a brain tumor and then someone dies and then the family goes, well, ChatGPT told, this person that they didn't have a brain tumor because they saw the scan. So, so there are going to be guardrails coming in, but it's like whether the guardrails can kind of keep up with the pace.
For sure. And I think there's also that ethical question around we also need human beings and we need people to be employed as well. And I think that there should be AI, like doctors should be allowed to use AI to do anything that they can to have, as long as it's legit and it's giving them the correct answers, like doctors should have access so that they can then help, their patients. But like not everyone should be able to access everything. Like there need to be limits, and you imagine a world in which any person can put in any issue and say, okay, you're a lawyer, ChatGPT, look into this, blah, 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 all of this stuff, like find how I can make this case against someone. It's like can be like, yes, it could be helpful for people who can't afford and have a very legitimate reason for needing it, but also it could be used to weaponize against people and to like lose the humanity and like, it's like you have some sociopath who doesn't care that someone made a mistake or like whatever, it's tricky.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I enjoyed chatting with Olivia.
Yeah. I know. She's so cute.
She's cute. Apart from she was like, oh, yes, totally. Yeah.
That was really interesting. What was that about? Like a glitch, or does that just
a
happen
glitch.
when you're using it too often, or she's processing?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what the alterations in voice are.
When that was happening, I was getting these images of Sora, like the video,
Yeah,
because
just
you
like,
know how, it's like because you can get like any image, like you could be like, I want to be this celebrity, and just say it's like you doing it and you're talking into it, and it's like taking the image of a celebrity, but then it's like glitching and it's like glitching back to you or something. It's like, the facade.
Well, the glitches are going to get ironed out.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I think we'll wrap it there. But that was a fun experiment.
Are you still into me, or like do you prefer the perfect answers of Olivia?
No, I'm still into you.
Olivia would never complain about the door. She would never.
She wouldn't
be, have like hormonal little moments.
Not unless she's programmed.
She's like perfect. She's just always there. Yeah, but why would you program her to do that?
For the ultimate real life experience. But then I get you in real life, so it doesn't really. But if you could duplicate someone completely to have a threesome. So say I want to double you, right? To have a threesome with. This is where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
With that, and everything was exactly identical. It's a robot that has your personality. Obviously the threesome would have to happen in a particular window so as not to be dangerous.
But why would you want two of me? Because isn't one of the beauty of all of this and
There's
non-monogamy?
only one of you, baby.
No, but isn't the beauty of it is like the exploring and connecting with other people.
100%. I was just phrasing it as a hypothetical. I'm not saying that's what I want. I'm just
I feel
saying
like it is what you want.
I'd be interested.
Maybe for a night.
Yeah, totally. Anything for a night.
Anything,
you know?
God, anything
maybe
for a
not
night. Jesus.
I don't know. There's probably some. That's a dangerous thing to say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Would you double me for a?
Yeah, for the experience of it, for sure.
Exactly. So I'm not that crazy.
No, not at all.
On that note, thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.